What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Dropping Points, episode 2. This is your host, Blake, here with my partner in MLS Fantasy Soccer, Brian Maurer. Brian, we're 2 days away from MLS is back. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I have drank all the FC Cincinnati Kool-Aid that there is, and I'm just trying to find a way to not stack three deep just because I'm trying to be a pessimist in some way, but man, I'm just so high on that team right now, and that's where I'm at. I'm just stoked about the MLS season coming up, all the hopes and dreams for all the teams, fantasy, and for the fans in the crowd, ready to go, man.
Absolutely. So after the first episode that we recorded this past week, this is our second episode this week, jam-packed week full of podcasts, right? Because MLS is right around the corner. But we announced our MLS Fantasy League, the Drop-in Points League. We have about 50 members in there right now. The more, the merrier. It is an open league. Please come join the Drop-in Points Podcast Fantasy League. If you want that link, DM me, hit us up. We'll go ahead and keep putting that out. We'll actually post that in our bio on Twitter. So you guys just click that link, join the league, and follow along from a week to week basis as we break down all the news and fantasy relevant things going on around MLS to keep you guys up to date on what's going on. So there is a lot of news to report heading into MLS Fantasy Match Week 1, and we'll start from the top. Brian, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Brenner has returned from Brazil, but reports are suggesting that he will not be ready to start on Saturday. Who are his possible replacements?
So yeah, I think right now it's Sergio Santos and Baji are both the possible replacements here. They're both at 7 million. I'm leaning towards Sergio Santos, but I mean I think it's very fantasy relevant because now you've got a potential cheap 7 million strike, 7 million striker in a really plus matchup. Cincinnati's playing Houston at home, so definitely worth keeping an eye on there.
El Trafico on Saturday, right? It's supposed to have all the stars in it. Carlos Vela, Chicharito, but he's going to be out. It seems. Availability unknown, as reported by Michele Giannone. It looks like Dejan Joveljic at 8 mil for fantasy stock. It looks like that's going way up. What are your thoughts on Joveljic? What are your thoughts on Chicharito being out in that match?
I mean, I love Joveljic. I think I was really surprised that he couldn't find a way to get in the starting lineup more last season. And if Chicharito is indeed out, I mean, I think he could easily become one of the top strikers selected, owned. I mean, at 8 million, I mean, it's just I mean, you're talking about a potential like premium, maybe one of the best strikers of the week, and at a non-premium price. So Joveljic jumps way up my board and my stock if Chicharito is indeed out. It just seems like it's really questionable. Nothing for sure yet. So it's definitely, I'd say, probably the top story to keep an eye on in terms of just injury news because it's really impactful. And that game is all about goals. So on top of it, it's like a value striker in a big goal matchup.
Yep, Joveljic is probably the best 12th man, first guy off the bench in the league. If you look at his stats last year, he's also an LAFC killer, man. 4 goals against LAFC in his time in MLS. That's more goals scored than he scored on any other team in the league. So, and we all remember what he did in the playoffs last year in the first round against LAFC. He came on and hit an absolute banger. So Joveljic he's capable and he can do that sort of thing if Chicharito is out. Keep an eye on that as lineups are posted an hour before kickoff. Miljevic, CF Montreal, one of their players, is out 2 to 3 months. Any idea on who a possible replacement is there?
Yeah, I've seen the name Sanusi come up. I mean, there's a few other forwards on their list, but again, like we talked about earlier or on Sunday. I mean, I'm just not sold on Montreal yet, so I'm just kind of keeping an eye on that lineup, whatever drops, and then maybe just kind of going from there. But there's so many question marks to begin with. Adding injuries to a question mark team is a little bit too much for me. I'm just gonna see what their lineup is, see how they play, and go from there. That's my personal preference with Montreal.
I wonder if it's just Hernan Losada already running them into the ground,
Yeah, yeah, already. Oh my gosh, too soon.
Hopefully that's the only injury. Hopefully they can, hopefully they fare better than DC when Losada was their head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed
Because
like that was
they were injury riddled in DC, so hopefully this isn't the first of many, but we'll see. Anyway,
Yep.
As if being an expansion team isn't hard enough, St. Louis is going to be without one of their center backs, Nielsen. Look to be one of their key pieces, and they're already a prime target for selecting players from the opposition. What is your thoughts on this impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think Austin FC is probably going to be one of the most targeted teams just because they showed what they can do against weaker opposition last season, and having a team that's, a brand new team that already has one of their key pieces out in their defense. It's going to be really hard for me to not pick at least two, probably three Austin FC players now.
Yep, I agree with that. I think everybody listening should probably go that route as well. I'll take this piece of news all the way here. Eloy Room is out for this weekend's match versus Philadelphia, currently in Netherlands getting his green card. To replace him, it looks like it's probably going to be one of either Evan Bush, who's a 12-year MLS vet, or 21-year-old Patrick Schulte. Not easy going up against the Philadelphia Union in game one. The Columbus Crew haven't actually scored on the Union since 2020 in 5 of their last matchups. If they don't score on this one, it's a tied for a league record. So not great, but again, Eloy Room is out for the Columbus Crew, who has a lot of turnover on that back line. So I wouldn't place a lot of my fantasy weight in the Columbus Crew's back 4+ goalie this upcoming weekend. Martin Rodriguez, DC United. He's going to be out for the season with, I believe, an ACL injury. What are your thoughts on how Pedro Santos is played into this whole thing?
Yeah, so I think this becomes a little, pretty interesting just because Pedro Santos is priced in as a defender this year, a premium defender at 7 million. But there already had been talks about him potentially moving to winger anyways, and now that a winger is out for the season, who is, I don't know, probably one of their starters, it just increases the likelihood that he is now maybe a starting winger. That's his natural position to begin with. So, that's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on because a premium defender playing in a winger role, even if it's on a weaker team like DC United, it still sparking my interest because, you're paying 7 million for a starting winger who's really good. Pedro Santos is a talented winger. So it's definitely something I'm keeping an eye on. Definitely not making any serious moves this week, but it's piqued my interest for sure.
For sure. So there's 29 teams in MLS so far this season. That is an odd number. Therefore, we will have a team on a bye every single week this season. Week 1 bye, Chicago Fire. So use those 4 mils for your switcheroos and to reduce budget charge. Okay. So game schedule for Switcheroo Watch. Your early game to look for is Nashville versus New York City FC. That's going to be Saturday at 4:30 p.m. And then your late games, El Trafico at 9:30. 10:30, you're going to have Portland and Sporting Kansas City, also Vancouver and RSL. And then Sunday's lone game will be Seattle versus Colorado. So keep those games in mind when planning out those switcheroos, okay?